Okay, so my name is Emily Trolia, and I'm a practicum student with academic support programs here at cssfye. Today's workshop is going to be on concept mapping. It's going to be a little bit more interactive than we usually are because we're going to make a concept map towards the end. So it'd be awesome if you guys could give me some input on that. Um, so today we're just going to kind of start out with an introduction to concept mapping, and then I'm going to cover a couple of different types that you could use and maybe like what classes you could use them in. And then after that, I will show you some examples of like how you can make them online or, just by hand. And then we will make one together at the end. So we wanted to cover concept mapping because it's a great way for visual learners to take notes, and it's actually a really good study tool as well. It really helps you make connections between ideas and all the subtopics that are related to the main topic. So generally speaking, they work best for lecture-based classes. They're not really conducive to studying for calculus or something like that. But really, you can use them for anything from biology to history to English. And the great thing about them is that there's not one way you have to make them. There are so many different ways that you can make a concept map and make it useful to you. So we're just going to start out with a short video just to kind of introduce concept mapping here. And then we'll go ahead and move into the content.
How to create a concept map. What is a concept map? A concept map is a visual way to organize thoughts and make connections between ideas. How can I use a concept map? You can use a concept map to brainstorm and organize ideas, create an outline for an assignment, or test your knowledge in review for exams. How do I make a concept map? By following these 7 steps. Step 1. Start by identifying the main topic and brainstorm everything you know about it. Use all relevant content from lectures, texts, and other course material. Step 2. Organize your information into main points. Step 3. Start creating your map. Begin with your main topic, then branch out to major points and supporting details. Step 4. Review your map and look for more connections. Use arrows, symbols, and colors to show relationships between ideas. Step 5. Include details. Definitions, equations, and diagrams are all useful. Step 6. Analyze and improve your map. Ask yourself, how do these ideas fit together? Have you made all necessary connections? Is the map accurate, logical, and detailed? Step 7. As you learn more, update your concept map to reflect your better understanding. Try talking out loud about your concept map. Ask yourself, can I describe the connections between these ideas? Following these 7 simple steps will allow you to create a concept map to help you study. For more information, get in touch.
Okay, so before we get started on working on one, I'm just going to touch on a few different types of concept maps. Like I said earlier, there's no strict rule for how they have to look. So there are so many different ways that you can make them, but these are kind of the most common. They're going to be spider maps, flowcharts, Venn diagrams, and hierarchies. Okay, so probably the thing that comes to mind when you hear a concept map is going to be a spider map or some kind of variation of this. So if you're in EDHE 101, this is in your textbook. This is an example I just pulled straight out of there. So like we have here, we have the one main idea that is the focal point of the spider map. And then branching off, you have 4 supporting ideas, but you could put as many supporting ideas as you can fit on your piece of paper. And then off of each supporting idea, there are smaller details. So, again, maybe for each supporting idea, think of 3 or 4 smaller details to branch off of it. And then once you have all of these supporting ideas and smaller details on here, make connections. So these dotted lines here are connections between different smaller details. And like you can see here, they are between the different supporting ideas. So that's going to help you draw connections between the different ideas and really understand the main idea as a whole, rather than, only understanding each supporting idea in and of itself. It'll help you make connections and intertwine all the different supporting ideas and how they are all connected to each other and how they're all connected to the main idea. And then next, some pretty common ones that you might see are going to be flow charts or process diagrams. So you might see these in science classes, like for example, in biology, it could be used for a life cycle. Um, if you're in like physics or any kind of engineering class, they might be used for the inputs and outputs of a certain process. But these will just kind of help you visualize how things move from one idea to the next idea. And they really help illustrate all the parts of a sequence or a specific process that has to follow a certain order of steps. Um, you could also use it down here, like they have kind of a decision tree. So, yes or no off of this lost item. Did you find it? Yes or no. If you found it, stop looking. If you didn't, reevaluate. So that'll just kind of help you, like I said, visualize cycles, um, or just kind of view the decision making process of a certain process. And then another one that you're probably very familiar with, I remember seeing these as early as elementary school, are Venn diagrams. So they're mostly used for comparing and contrasting ideas. Um, so the general format is just going to be comparing, two different ideas. And so you draw your two circles, and you have one idea devoted to one circle and another circle devoted to another idea. And so then where they overlap here is going to be all the similarities that are between them. And then the areas that are distinct for each circle are going to be the ideas that where the two concepts differ. So for example, if you did lemons over here and bananas over here, the similarities would be that they're both yellow and they're both a fruit. But over here in lemon, you could say it's sour and it has a bumpy exterior. But for bananas over here, you could say that it's sweet and generally has a smooth exterior. So that's just a pretty basic idea, but it would be a great way to just any of your classes, if there are two ideas that you're going to have to compare and contrast, say in an essay, or some kind of short response. It would be a great way to practice and make sure you really have those ideas down pat and know which characteristics are distinct to one of the ideas or where they have overlapping characteristics. And then if you're feeling up for it, you could branch out and compare and contrast 3 or 4 different ideas. I think 4 would get a little bit jumbled, and it might kind of get hard to follow. But over here, we have the example of how you can draw the 3 circles to compare and contrast 3 different ideas. Um, you just have your middle section here where they're all similar. And then AC over here would just be the similarities that are only between A and C. BC here would be the similarities that are only between B and C. And then A, B in here would be the similarities that are only between A and B. And then, like the basic one, A here would be all the characteristics that are exclusive to A. This section here would be all the characteristics that are exclusive to B. And then this section here would be all of the characteristics that are exclusive only to C. And then another idea is to show a hierarchy of something. So this example up here is kind of a fun example. It's an org chart of the office. So if there's any kind of, you could use this for like a history or a government class, you could show a monarchy, the kings and queens and who reported to who. Or, for example, you could even do our government system. So you could do the three branches, you know, um, who leads each branch, and then who reports to who falling down from there. So generally it's going to be the broad, or the person that has the most reports is going to be at the top, or the broadest idea of everything. And then it's going to get more specific as you go down. And there's going to be more and more and more branches as you go down. And then another one down here that you see a lot in like psychology or education classes is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So you could build a pyramid like this if you have a similar topic in any of your classes. Another way that you could use this hierarchy would be for like a biology class. So you could do, the different animal kingdoms, and then all the way down to like a certain species. So just so you can see how things get more specific as you move down through the hierarchy. And then these are some websites that you can use to create concept maps if you wanted to make one online. So this one over here is a website called Visme. That's VISME. They have a lot of different free templates you can use, just about any kind of template you can imagine. And there are also some that you can pay for, but why pay for them if they have so many different free options? And then this one is from a website called Creately, and that's what I'm going to do our example on today, so you can see it a little bit more. But like you can see here, they have a flow chart like we talked about, a regular concept map like we talked about, and then this one here is like an org chart, so that'd be like an example of a hierarchy. You can see who reports to who and who branches off from where. Um, and then mind maps are kind of similar to concept maps, so that might be something that you could look at as well. And then these are different ideas for how you can draw them by hand. So if you have a notebook that you have devoted to one class, you could use your concept map, or yeah, you can make a concept map in that notebook. And, that way, whenever you're in class, you have it ready and you can add to it as you need it. Or if you're studying, if something pops into your head, you could add it to your concept map. And that way, when you go to completely review for the exam or completely review for the final, you've kind of added those things as you've gone along, and you'll always have it with you if something pops into your mind that you can add to. And then over here on the right, obviously that's just a whiteboard. So if you have access to a whiteboard on campus, like in a study room in your dorm or something, that would be a great spot just to write it out. The only downside is that somebody's probably going to erase it when you leave. But it's a nice big surface, so you can put down as many ideas as you can possibly fit on there. You could draw diagrams, you could do examples, you could really add a lot to it. And then just some other ideas, you could, go buy some poster board from Walmart. You could use the backside of like wrapping paper if you get like the thick paper kind. Just about anything that you can write on, you can make a concept map on. So we are going to practice one here real quick. Let me get mine pulled up. Okay, so it would be great if I could get some ideas from people. So like we can see here, the main topic is going to be Ole Miss. So when you think of Ole Miss, does anybody want to throw out some ideas that come to mind when you think of Ole Miss? It can be anything. I'll start out with athletics.
Academics.
Awesome, thank you. So we've got athletics and academics. What else?
Culture.
Culture. I'm going to include, do you mean like student life and student activities and stuff?
I was thinking more along the lines of history, but yes, that
Oh,
could
yeah,
work.
no, history is a great one. And then one more. Anybody else? Where are we? We're in Oxford. So I'm going to put Oxford down, just because we are connected to the city very much. So off of academics, does anything come to mind for anybody?
Croft Institute.
Croft. So if you're doing this for yourself, you could make it, generic for whatever your major is. Any other academics? I'll throw one out. We have the medical center. Okay, so we'll put the arts.
The arts.
Yeah, we'll put that there. Just saw that in the chat. Okay, we'll move on to athletics next. What comes to mind for athletics?
The Turner Center.
Sure. Oops. I think of football, I think. One more? It's spring, so we'll say baseball. And then 3 things that come to mind when you think of Oxford. We'll say the square. That's what, when I tell people I go to Ole Miss, they say, oh, I've seen shows about restaurants that are on the square, or I've seen shows about X, Y, and Z that's on the square. So that's definitely something that people think of when they think of Oxford. Anything else? Say Jackson Avenue, that's kind of the main thoroughfare through town. A lot happening there if it's not happening on the square. Does anybody have one more? Say Roanoke. And then finally, the history of the school. What are some things that come to mind when you think of the history?
(1848).
Awesome. Anything else? I think James Meredith might be something that comes to mind for some people when you think of the history of Ole Miss. And can we get one more? We got a lot of history here at this school. The blues markers, that's a good idea. Okay. So I kind of had this template drawn out before we got here because it can be a little bit tedious to get these all drawn out. But I am going to show you how you can make some connections. Okay. Okay, so something that you might not know is UMMC was originally here in Oxford. So that is a connection you can make. So I would just draw a line here from UMMC, connecting it to Oxford. And then you can even change the line styles here. So if you want it curved or angled, different arrowheads, anything like that. You could even change the color if you wanted. So that's just an idea. You could connect here the blues markers to James Meredith. So, I mean, obviously it's not like the blues, but these are the green history signs. So we've got the sign by his statue in front of the Lyceum. Does anybody else see any other connections that we can make? I think we could connect Roanoke here to the history of the university. Just because there's so many different connections between the city and between the school. Football, I think football could easily be connected to the square because, football season, you take one look at the square and you know whether or not we have a home game going on. Same goes for baseball, especially with limited capacities this year. A lot of people went to the square to watch instead of being able to go to the stadiums. Does anybody else see any other connections? I think you could connect academics. At first it might not seem like it, but I think you could argue a connection to the square. A lot of people go and do homework, say at like the Graduate or at Uptown, even the Square Books balcony when it's open. So, the square isn't just for shopping and eating. There's definitely some studying going on there, at least during daylight hours. So if nobody else has any other connections that they can think of to make, I just wanted to show you guys a way that you can make these online. Um, obviously it can be useful for any of the classes that you want to make it useful for. Like they said in the video, add in pictures, add in diagrams, add in examples. So do whatever you have to do to help you make as many connections as you possibly can. So I'm going to get back to the PowerPoint here. And so this was my example here. And it was pretty similar. Instead of history, I had student life. So, I was able to connect the Grove to athletics, Greek life and student organizations, student life and academics. So many different ways that you can make connections, and no two concept maps are going to be identical. So if you're working on one with a friend, bounce ideas off of each other, brainstorm, see what different ideas you can come up with, and like I said, just try and make as many connections as you possibly can, because the more connections you make, the better understanding you're going to have of the main idea as a whole. Okay, and so, like always, be sure to check out the videos that we're going to have the rest of the semester. I think next week we move into time management, and then we're going to also have reading strategies and test prep before finals. So after today, we're going to have 4 more workshops. But like always, if you missed any of them, the past workshops are going to be on our website. And then as we start prepping for finals, if you want to set up a coaching session or any kind of academic consultation with anybody here at ASP, you can check out our website for instructions on how to do that. or you could email us, or as always, stop by and see us in JCE. We're between the ID Center and Weir Hall. So I'll stop the recording here.